First, before I even begin, I just want to give God the honor and glory for all that He's done for me. And to lead me to Sienna School and to have the opportunity to teach not only social studies and the history of the United States of America and so forth, but to be able to have the privilege and to share my ethnic background. And I'm a middle school teacher of social studies and theology, and I had created, I'm so compassionate with my ethnic Hispanic background that I created a culture club at St. Lucy's, and I tell my students to embrace their own ethnic background, share their celebrations, their traditions, their culture with everybody around them. Take pride in who they are. God created each one of us differently. We should be sharing that. Not only the gifts that He's given us to share with each other, but our own culture. And I've had the many blessings in my own family to take pride in my Mexican heritage, the Latina ethnic background, my culture, not to ever be ashamed of it, but to shout it out. And when I first entered St. Lucy's, they had never, that I know of, that knowledge, did they ever celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month? And it kind of got me thinking, for 33 years, we had to been celebrating that. So when I came from another school district, I had implemented it at that school, and I had asked the principal, can you please allow me to celebrate this? So we ended up embracing it. My culture club students create announcements, and every day for the remaining time of Hispanic Heritage Month, they select an achiever, a Hispanic achiever. We talk about it in our announcements every day before we start school. And then when they come to my class, we expand on that. Talk about why are we celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And then I incorporate my own personal culture celebrations. The first week of Hispanic Heritage Month this year, we had created the PowerPoint and the history and researched the history of chocolate, Mexican chocolate hot cocoa. And I had showed them a clip that in Mexico they take the beans and they literally cook them on the comal, and they take these beans and they crunch it up in the molcajete. And for me to be able to share that with my students, it is a blessing. And they embrace it. And the second week, we researched the background of De La Rosa candy, the peanut butter candy, which I brought for people to taste on the table over there, and the history of it and where it came from and why they selected the rose to symbolize that candy. And for some of these students to never ever taste these candies and to hear about it, it was a blessing to watch that. Their eyes just like, whoa, I've never had this. Where do I find it? Where do I look for it? And the mind started going. And on the third week, which was last week, we did a research on the back history of arroz con leche. So we made it in class, talked about where it came from, where it stemmed from, and the joy that these kids produced was like, wow, this is really good, Miss Mata. And I said, yes, it is. So we talked about the history. We even went as far as looking at Peru. Peru actually has a similar recipe like arroz con leche, but they add fruta. They add mangoes to it and blueberries and piña on it. And I thought, well, I never knew that, so I was learning along with them. And next week, we're going to do a little history talking about aguachata. It was funny because we have it here, and Cynthia was giving me her little input on her recipe, and I go, that's what we're going to do next week with my students. And to end it next week, we're going to do Mexican bingo. And we are going to Loteria, and I'm going to teach them about that Mexican card game, and we are going to use pinto beans because that's what I use in my family. So it's again, I can't tell you enough on how blessed I feel that God has avenued me to this school so that I can embrace my own ethnic background and teach my students to have the same proudness that I have, the pride I have in my own ethnic background, to shout it out and be joyous that whatever they have, share your traditions, your celebrations with everybody so that we can learn yours and to own it, embrace it the way I do myself. So I appreciate you allowing me to come talk about my heritage and to be a part of this celebration. So Thank you.